What's up, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Shawco Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast where we'll be talking all things mental health. We are definitely back in beta with the second episode. If you haven't watched our first episode, definitely do go check it out before you watch this one. I think it's only fitting. Come on. And please do subscribe to our channel. Please, guys. This thing of you guys watching our videos and not subscribing is really not cool. Please, for my sake. Just to introduce myself, my name is Litlana Latela, and I'm the host of the podcast together with
Stuart. My name is Stuart. I'm also the other host of the podcast. And every week we're joined by a special guest, and this week's guest is Koketso. She's a third-year psychology student from Pretoria, and so I'd love if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hi guys, and I'm Koketso. Like he said, I'm from Pretoria, and what I do is that I mentor students in my faculty, and I also mentor other students, matric students in my community back at home in Pretoria. I am also an English teacher. I teach international students all over the world, online. So I think that's just cool. Very cool.
Wow, certainly quite a trailblazer there. You're doing a lot, especially for a university student where some of us can only focus on the next university assignment. You're out here working other jobs and doing all of that. Really quite inspiring. This podcast is focused on mental health and is about mental health awareness. So I was hoping you could maybe share with us a little bit about your experience with mental health, especially through university, and what that was like for you and what it's been like for you.
So I come from a small town, right? And when I came here, I was shocked. Like, oh my God, what is this place? I was like everybody else, I guess. And I didn't quite know much about mental health. Back at home, I would hear words such as depression, anxiety being thrown around, but I didn't quite understand what that was. So when I came here, I was nervous and always anxious. That was one problem I had. I was always anxious. So then that was my experience here, just feeling out of place all the time, and yeah.
Very, very interesting. And so how do you think that affected you in your change coming to university? Like, did you find it quite difficult to adjust? Like, what did you end up doing to combat that anxiety you were feeling?
So, like I said, that I'm a psychology student, right? So, I didn't know what anxiety was.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to go about dealing with it. So then, when I went into psychology, that was my main aim, to kind of get an understanding of what is this thing that I'm always battling, and how do I now help myself and deal with it better.
Okay, very interesting. So using your degree, you sort of applied it to yourself as well.
Yes.
Which is quite, a lot of us psychology students, we've done that ourselves. You looked at, what do they tell you in the psychology textbook as to how to combat these things?
Yeah.
But obviously that's very good, and it's important to be aware of those things when we're discussing that. And so you said this obviously affected you personally, coming from a small town. And so, do you feel like this is quite a prevalent issue within the university community? How widespread have you experienced this mental health issue to be?
Okay, so we talk amongst ourselves as students. On the groups, everybody's complaining. Everybody has so many assignments to do, and everybody I've met literally has something they're suffering from, right? So I think it's not just me. I think everybody is going through it, and what really concerns me is, I was able to deal with my anxiety, right? Are other people, doing the same? Do they have enough resources to kind of help themselves so that it does not become worse?
Absolutely. I mean, you say you dealt with your anxiety. How do you deal with your anxiety when you start to feel anxious with regards to the build-up of tests or anything like that?
So what I actually do is that I just switch everything out and take time for myself, which is one thing we struggle with as students. So for example, if I'm writing this essay that's due tomorrow, right, I'm gonna work throughout the night. That's not healthy, right? I sort of just put everything off and just focus on myself, because one time what I did was I worked throughout the night, right, and in the morning I read the essay and I was like, what the hell was I writing? Right? So I think it's very important to just take a break, switch everything off and take time for yourself. That's how you actually give yourself time to process everything, and it eases your anxiety.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you have anything you do when you're feeling anxious to calm that anxiety or to help clear your mood?
Honestly, I think my first go-to is crying.
Yes,
Guys,
definitely.
oh, what a release. I love crying. Okay, not I love crying, but crying literally releases everything that I'm feeling. I even am starting to schedule in crying breaks in between my schoolwork just to release everything, and I'm not overwhelmed.
Definitely. So one thing also I do is that it's actually a hack. I've realized. I was like, oh my god, I should have done this since first year. Write a letter to yourself. You know, I've actually didn't realize how much I needed that. Literally took out a piece of paper, pen, and started writing my feelings. Went over 2 pages, and I was like, aha, that's crazy. Yes, yeah. So that really helps with just putting yourself at ease.
Definitely, and I think also that helps you have conversations with yourself and to be able to track where your emotions are and how you're feeling. I think also another thing is, as a psychology student, how do you think your studies have changed your perspective of mental health versus like who you were when you came in first year and what you understand now?
Okay, so like I said, I'm from a small town, right? I used to see a lot of schizophrenic people. That was one thing that kind of pushed me into wanting to do psychology so that I can understand those people, because what society tends to do is to cast them out. You see a schizophrenic person, the first thing you're thinking, I need to run away from this person. So I just wanted to understand what is it that causes this type of illness, because I knew a lot of people that were not born that way, right? What is the biological underpinnings of what they're going through? Why is it that we treat them like this? That is what I came here to do, to study that, which is, yeah. So then, studying psychology, I learned, it's caused by this imbalance in the brain, whatever. And then I got to realize, you know what? These people are not schizophrenic because they chose to. They don't want to be schizophrenic. It's something that happened that is beyond their control, right? And I kind of started seeing it in a different light in terms of realizing that those people need love as much as we do. They're just as human, which is something that like I said, when I saw a schizophrenic person, I just wanted to run. But now I kind of am more accepting towards them, and I just realize, as much as they might look weird from the rest of us, they just need the same love.
Definitely, that is actually quite interesting, because I think also at some point in my life I've also had those kind of thinkings. And when you engage with a lot of people, your peers around university and also back home, what do you think are some of the misunderstandings that people still have about mental health that you have learned about through your degree?
Okay, so like I said, you hear people say all the time, oh, I'm depressed, oh, this and this. It actually gets me so crazy. I always tell people, no, you're just sad, you're not depressed, because depression is deeper, it's something you wouldn't want to have, right? So I just kind of try to tell the people that, try to teach them better, I guess, those around me. Like, tell them, oh, you know what, depression is this. If you feel this way, I'm not psychoanalyzing people. So normally in psychology they tell us, don't go around psychoanalyzing people, but it's something I do, not to do, like just unconsciously sort of teach people that, you know what, this is this and this is that. Yeah.
On that note, have you had experiences where your friends or your family kind of ask you for help just because you're a psychology student?
Definitely. At home, my mom calls me. Everything happens in her life. She's like, what's this? What's that? I'm like, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know.
I'm your daughter, not your psychologist.
I don't know.
Yes, no, exactly. You actually raised some very interesting points there about, speaking about seeing schizophrenic people in your community, and this whole idea of people going around saying, I'm depressed, and not fully understanding their own emotion. And we spoke about it last week with Busi about destigmatizing mental health. And you've briefly mentioned it there. Would you like speak about how you feel mental health should be destigmatized potentially?
Okay. So I think one thing that lacks is education. The town I came from, people don't know it's not a real thing there. People don't understand what mental health is. So I think it starts with raising awareness, teaching people, like I said, that you're not depressed, you're just sad, type of thing. Teaching people and making them see that, it's okay to not be okay. I was having a conversation with a friend the other time that it's so weird how I've never seen my mom cry. What does she do when she's sad? Type of thing. I think we need to teach also the community that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, and that will kind of help in reducing the stigma if we educate. Yeah.
Absolutely. It seems to be something that the university students and the younger generation are a bit better at, is expressing our emotions. I mean, you very freely admitted, that you book time to cry. You guys say that you cry, like you find it as a great way to express your emotion and get those feelings out. And it's healthy for you, with obviously in moderation. I'm seriously worried if you're crying all the time, but it is something that needs to be made aware of. And so it's almost falls to us now to become that voice and that education factor, and share that with our communities.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you've mentioned, we've obviously spoken about your time as a psychology student, and what you've done in your community. So what would you, this is a bit of a hypothetical question, from a university perspective, what would you like to see happen in the university to help destigmatize mental health, to push mental health forward to the forefront of like the issues that we deal with?
I think we can get more people to study mental health so you can teach the others. So, for example, if a lot of people are studying psychology, I mean, you spread that, like I said, I spread that across my friends, my community. So just kind of getting more people to study this, because it's not just on the surface. Psychology is a lot of work, trust me, because there's just so much to learn. And for there to be sort of like a round understanding of mental health around the university, around the world even, we just need more people to go deeper into research and actually get to understand mental health so they can share their knowledge to other people.
Very, very interesting. I mean, I totally agree. There's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
It's so like unspoken about. And I mean, even if you're doing research projects into anything, you see there's so much knowledge coming out every year. Recently, more and more and more, we're learning so much more about the brain and about how it affects us and how our emotions affect us. And that certainly becomes something to be aware of for students. And I would really encourage people, if they do have the opportunity to do a degree, I would recommend looking at mental health, focusing through psychology or any of the social work degrees or social science degrees, specifically looking at these factors. And it really provides such a understanding for people about the world they live in. It's fascinating. I'm sure you've had that experience, and I don't know if you have as well. Looking when you learn something in your class about the way people work, or the schizophrenia example, and going, now it all makes sense.
Quite openly spoken about in the past. And bringing it more to home as a student, we're in the second half of the first semester and people are writing tests, people are getting their marks back, and also some people might be preparing for exams. So how do you think people can still prioritize their mental health during this time where it's kind of like a struggle between, do I do my schoolwork or do I, So how do you deal with that?
Okay, so one important thing that I would say is that people need to take time for themselves. Guys, we are not machines, right? So you can study as much as you want, but at the end of the day, if you are not fit mentally or you are not well mentally, then at the end of the day, what you are doing might not even be that productive. It might not be that helpful. You might study the whole night for 3 days straight out. That's not healthy. You need to take time for yourself. I remember one time I wrote an assignment and I submitted 10 minutes before the tab closed. After the lesson, after submitting, I was then throwing up, literally throwing up, shaking, and I was like, this needs to stop. I'm not going to do this to myself again, right? So it's just a matter of knowing why you're here. We are all here to get our degrees. That's the main focus. But also, you're a human being outside of this degree. You have a social life. Go out for a drink. Do something fun. You don't always have to be programmed on your boards and doing schoolwork all the time. So yeah, that's my thing. Take time for yourself.
Definitely. So for students who are in their first year of university, they don't know what to expect. They've never written a university exam in their lives. What advice would you give to those students?
Okay, so I'm a COVID baby. I haven't written much exams myself, but one thing I always tell my mentees is that go into your faculties, look at your course lines. There's a list of people who are there to help you. Call them. It's their jobs for them to help you, right? If you don't know who to ask, whatever, you have a small question that you need to ask those people in your course outlines, right? They will always help you. And also, just familiarizing yourself with the resources available around you. That's my main thing, that the student wellness services, go to them, because sometimes you're caught up and you don't know what to do. You know, you just feel like there's a plastic bag over your head, and you know it's exam season. It's hectic for everybody else. Exams are hectic for everyone. I think just preparing when you're well prepared, you can, you know, I'm not saying nail your exam, but you can actually know you did your best. Also, just trying to stay sane, which is what a lot of people need to understand, that as much as it's an exam, it's heavy rating, you need to stay sane, right? You need to step back sometimes and say, okay, oops, I need time for myself.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So I mean, I personally, some of the things I do when I feel stressed with exams or tests or anything is I'm a hot beverage enjoyer. I will make myself a cup of tea or a cup of hot chocolate or coffee or whatever's in the house at the moment, and I'll make that, prepare it for myself, and it's a little accomplishment that I've done for myself, and I can feel proud of myself, and it spurs you on to do the next task that you need to do. Especially I'll do it before I prep for an assignment, or if I'm writing a test, I'll prep before that. Are there any sort of small things you do when you're feeling stressed or like that?
Yeah, definitely. Every day, you know, when you wake up and you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, and that. What I don't do that anymore. At the end of each day, I then look back and say, what have I done today? So that's a mental health tip for myself, that, you know what, let me, instead of pressurizing myself into doing certain things, let me now look back and say, okay, what have I done? Thank yourself for those small things. Buy yourself a chocolate for those small things, which is what I do. One of my friends was saying the other time that, you know what, you're always buying yourself chocolates. What's going on? I'm like, I'm just celebrating my achievements. I did a test. I just wrote a test. It was hectic. I need to celebrate that.
Exactly.
You know, that I might have not went the way I wanted it to go, but I did that. I finished the test, so let me celebrate that. So just these small gifts for myself.
Absolutely, celebrating the small things and uplifting yourself. There's no point beating yourself up. The test is written. It's done. Like
Done.
you can't change the mark now. It's gonna happen.
Definitely.
You'll all log on to Vula and you'll all see that 0 to 50 mark, and the whole class will be
It's
sitting
there,
there. You're all
yes.
in it together.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Oh, triggered.
We've all been there for a test at least.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. Speaking on rewarding yourself, please do like this video as you're watching.
Give
Please
us a
don't forget.
reward.
Yes.
Yes.
Subscribe, please.
Yeah. No, so these things are all super important for us as students, and especially for the younger students who are coming in. And this will be their like first experience of quite a hectic timetable and quite a hectic experience. So these are some really good tips you've given them and things you can they can learn from this. And you mentioned the UCT peer counseling and student wellness. We also spoke about this last week, and we'll have the link down in the description below with access to these resources. So please, if you are feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, or just feel like you need an ear to talk to, go send them a message, contact them, and they will be in touch with you. And we really do recommend it. There is such a brilliant service that are on offer. It's not something that's incredibly common to have such great resources available so easily. So do take advantage of this. And we really do recommend it. It's such a fantastic
Definitely.
program.
I've been there myself, and very wonderful. They are so good. So what happened was, I was also just feeling stressed, normally like a student, every other person during exams, and my life was, I felt like there was plastic bag over my head. I couldn't breathe, and you know. So I went there. I just woke up one morning and I was like, okay, let me try set an appointment with these people. And you know, it didn't feel weird. It's not like a thing where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to say to them? No, you're actually just free, you know. As much as they say therapy is, you know, a process and whatever, you know, honestly, I felt better from the first session we had. She gave me, you know, a lot of comfort and reassurance and, you know, everything. So super wonderful. So you guys should definitely use those services.
And it's not just a counseling thing for if you're feeling upset. They do have academic support there as well, which we spoke about last week. So there's a whole host of options, and so it's such a good thing. I would personally recommend visiting counselors if you can, or going to student wellness for anyone and everything. It doesn't just have to be when you're feeling particularly down after a moment. It has such a positive impact on your life, and I don't think anyone will realize until they've gone to therapy or gone to these things themselves, or how positive an effect it'll have. It's so useful.
Definitely. And I think just to add on to that, please don't wait for yourself to be overwhelmed or to definitely be down before you go ask for help. If you just like feeling that, okay, something might not be right, please do definitely reach out. And you don't have to be diagnosed with a certain mental illness for you to be able to go to therapy or to talk to someone. So yeah, what can you leave us with? If we are going to remember Koketso, what are you going to leave us with in this podcast episode?
So whenever you hear the name Koketso or you see me around campus or wherever you guys are, just remember that girl is the girl who told me to take care of myself, to take time for myself. Yeah. Even if it's 5 minutes to yourself, give yourself that 5 minutes. You deserve it. You deserve it.
Absolutely. That's so good. It's so important to look after ourselves, and it's something often we're not taught or taught enough. You know, we taught about university, and it's that grind. You know, you grind for that degree, and so, but with that grind, you do need to take a little bit of time out. Even if it's 5 minutes before you start your test, or 5 minutes, just center yourself, breathe a bit, and take that time out for yourself.
Definitely.
Thank you for
because if
sharing
you
that.
aren't okay, you definitely won't have the degree anyway. So yeah. On that tip of taking care of yourself, we definitely want to hear, what do you do to take care of yourself during the school term? Please comment down below so we can keep the conversation going, and so that we can learn and get new tips from other people as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's always interesting to hear other people's opinions on what your pocket of peace is, what you do to find your little bit of space. Like I said, mine is making myself a cup of tea and just breathing and taking myself away from my distractions for 5 minutes before I start an assignment or a test. So yeah, let us know what yours is down below, and we're super grateful to have had you on the show today, Koketso.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. We really do appreciate it. You've shared such brilliant insights, and have certainly been added to our list of esteemed guests for the show.
Definitely. I think, as per tradition, it's only fitting for this part of the podcast where we have a cheers. So basically, this is the part where we have a cheers. Okay. And today we're going to toast to our guest slogan. So, to taking care of yourself, cheers!